Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityaṁ bhāgavata-sevayā bhagavati uttama-shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Caitanya Prabhu Nityaṁ Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear worshipful devotees, thank you so much for your kind association. We are reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19, entitled King Yayâti Achieves Liberation. So in the last few verses, we were reading about the pitfalls of lust and how Yayâti made a firm resolve that I will not engage in anymore in the worldly pleasures. Rather, I will engage my mind in the service of the Lord. So he gave the different directions to the different sons, but his son Puru, who was very obedient, he made him the main ruler, and the other brothers were serving under Puru, although Puru was the youngest amongst the five. So we read this so far. Let's read next verse, text 25, and see what happens further. The example of the bird flying is also there when the bird grows up. Sa tatra nirmukta samasta sangha atmanubhuyu atmanubhutya vidhutta trilingaha Pare amale brahmani vasudeve lebhe gatim bhagavatim pratitaha. Translation and purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. King Yayâti completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. He was freed from all contamination of material modes of nature. Because of his self-realization, he was able to fix his mind upon the transcendence, Parabrahman, Vasudeva, and thus he ultimately achieved the position of an associate of the Lord. Purport. The word vidhuta, meaning cleanse, is very significant. Everyone in the material world is contaminated. Karanam guna sangosya. Because we are in a material condition, we are contaminated either by sattva guna, by rajoguna, or by tamoguna. Even if one becomes a qualified brahmana in the mode of goodness, he is still materially contaminated. One must come to the platform of Shuddha Sattva, transcending the sattva guna. Then one is vidhutta trilinga, cleansed of the contamination caused by the three modes of material nature. This is possible by the mercy of Krishna, as stated in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.2.17. Shrinvatam svakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridayantastoya bhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous and when properly heard and chanted. A person trying to be perfectly Krishna conscious by hearing the words of the Supreme Lord Krishna from Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita certainly has all the dirty things cleansed from the core of the heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, Cheto Darpanamarjanam. The process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord washes away all the dirty things accumulated in the core of the heart. As soon as one is freed from the dirt of material contamination, as Maharaj Yayâti was, one's original position as an associate of the Lord is revealed. This is called Swarupa Siddhi, or personal perfection. Hare Krishna. So, in this verse, we see that Maharaj Yayâti initially first gave up sense enjoyment, became self-realized. By the process of hearing, one becomes cleansed. That's the essence here. So, the more we hear, the more the cleansing will happen. Chetudarpanamarjanam bhava mahadava. And the more one will get closer to Krishna, the more one's attachment to Krishna will develop. And ultimately, as Maharaj Yayâti became the eternal associate of the Supreme Lord, achieved his ultimate position or Swarupa Siddhi, referring to the true self, Swarupa. The true self is basically Krishna's eternal servant. And in what way, in what form, that will be revealed at the right time, as it was revealed at the right time to Maharaj Yayâti. So, by hearing, by self-realization, by firm resolve to take shelter of the lotus feet, certainly we can overcome the modes as Maharaj Yayâti did and be free from all the lower modes and situate ourselves as in the transcendental sattva guna or shuddha sattva. This is the message in this verse. And that's why we read and hear Bhagavatam every day, so that we can purify our consciousness and get to our true state. Any other comments anyone has? Additions? Okay. Text 26. Anyone who didn't read yesterday wants to read? Yes, Prabhu, please, Akshay, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Shrutva gatam devyani mena prastobam atmana Śrī pumso sneha vaiklavya parihasam ivaritam. Translation and purport. When Devyani heard Maharaj Yayâti's story of the he-goat and she-goat, she understood that this story, which was presented as if a funny joke for entertainment between husband and wife, was intended to awaken her to her constitutional position. When one actually awakens from material life, one understands his real position as an eternal servant of Krishna. This is called liberation. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena yavastite. Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 6. Under the influence of Maya, everyone living in the material world thinks that he is the master of everything. Ahankara vimurhatma kartaham iti manyate. One thinks that there is no God or controller, and that one is independent and can do anything. This is the material condition, and when one awakens from this ignorance, he is called liberated. Maharaj Yayâti had delivered Devayani from the well, and finally, as a dutiful husband, he instructed her with the story about the he-goat and she-goat, and thus delivered her from the misconception of material happiness. Devayani was quite competent to understand her liberated husband, and therefore she decided to follow him as his faithful wife. Hare Kṛṣṇa Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Lakshya Prabhu, for so nicely reading this verse. The message of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the instructions heard from a self-realized soul, have a deep impact on the heart. We see that in this example. Maharaj Yayâti was self-realized. Now he has given up his all bad propensities. While he's sharing the story, he is not a lusty person hankering for material enjoyment. Rather, he understood the wrong he had done, and he is remorseful and very dependent or very determined to do the right thing, and that is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord and become an eternal associate. So when the message is heard from such pure souls, certainly it will have an impact on the heart. So here Devyani's transformation is also shared. That when she heard the story, she was very competent. It's mentioned here. She was quite intelligent to understand that how the story is basically not he-goat and she-goat, but actually my life. Because I have been, the she-goat is actually me in the story. So, Prabhupada is mentioning, under the influence of Maya, everyone in the material world thinks that I am the master. Ahankara vimurhatma kartaham iti manyate. And that basically is forgetfulness of Krishna, and that basically is cause of bondage. But when one understands that Krishna is the Bhagavan Swayam, Krishna is the doer, Krishna is the master, Krishna is Saman Bonam, then the ignorance is gone and happiness comes in the life. So the importance of hearing is shared. The transformation happens by the process of hearing, no matter what one's background may be or past may be. Such a nice lesson here. And then she also followed the footsteps of her husband. Any additions, any other comments anyone has on this? Okay, let's read the next verse. Yes, Nandini Mataji, you want to read, please?
Yes, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Sasannivasam suridham prapayami gacchatam vigyayeshwaranta nantra nam maya vicharitam prabho sarvatra sangam utsrujya swapna upamyena bhargavi Krishne manaha samaveshya vyadhunola lingam atmanaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya, understood that the materialistic association of husband, friends, and relatives is like the association of a hotel full of tourists. The relationships of society, friendship, and love are created by the Maya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as in a dream. By the grace of Krishna, Devayani gave up her imaginary position in the material world. Completely fixing her mind upon Krishna, she achieved liberation from the gross and subtle bodies. Purport. Prabhu, will you please scroll down? One should be convinced that he is a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, but has somehow or other been entrapped by the material coverings of the gross and subtle bodies, consisting of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. One should know that the association of society, friendship, love, nationalism, religion, and so on are nothing but creations of Maya. One's only business is to become Krishna conscious and render service unto Krishna as extensively as possible for a living being. In this way, one is liberated from material bondage. By the something of Krishna, by the grace of Krishna, Devayani attained this state through the instructions of her husband. So nicely said. Prabhupada is saying that this everything is temporary. The society, friendship, love, every relationship, every bondage, every transaction, everything is like, it's like a dream. You know, it doesn't really mean anything unless it is put in context of Krishna and eternal relationship with him. So it's like we sit in a bus and go from one point to another point. And some people come in and some people go off. You know, we don't lament for the people who left, and we don't, declare allegiance with the people who are in the bus. It's just a temporary transportation. So is this material body. This is a temporary transportation, and these relationships are exactly similar. They're temporary. And Prabhupada here is saying that Devayani understood this, and through the instructions of her husband, she also followed the path and then achieved liberation. Back to you, Prabhu. Please add. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hearing from great souls has such deep impact on our consciousness. Prabhupada really emphasizes on hearing at many purports, practically all the purports, wherever the word Shrunu comes, hearing. Prabhupada was very fond of hearing himself, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also noted that it's Abhay Babu likes to hear. The second last line of this verse, Krishna mana avishya. Samyak rupen avishya, complete absorption, complete meditation of the mind on the Supreme Lord. By the grace of Krishna, Devayani gave up her false position. Just think about Devayani's transformation. All the anger, the position, the queen, the husband, the hatred towards Sarmishta, all that past. Every saint had a past, and every sinner has a future. This is a perfect example, or so many other examples are also there. No matter whatever our past may be, no matter whatever mistakes one may have done in this life or the next, when one hears from the great souls, from the self-realized souls, we awaken from the dream condition. When we come to reality, Jiva Jago, Gaur Chandra Bol. And what is reality? Our Jiva Swarupa Krishna Nityadas, Bhakti, Bhagavan, and Bhakta. And what is the dream situation? Anything besides that. So Devayani was completely purified, and her mind was completely fixed on the Supreme Lord. And that's the essential message of Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. Fix your mind on me, become my devotee. So we are here almost to the last verse. Any other comments before we move on to the next verse? Yes, Prabhu, please.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji. One time, Srila Prabhupada was asked that if one becomes a sadhu or a swami, is he free from all material contamination? And in other words, does he become invincible? Nothing can really affect him. Srila Prabhupada said, so far we are in this material world, material thoughts, desire, conflicts, likes and dislikes, it's going to come, even for a sadhu. But the best thing about a swami or sadhu is that who can control the senses. So that's the point that even great spiritual masters, because we are in this, the design of this material platform is contamination. But they know how to divert any adversities. They divert everything in Krishna consciousness. It's said that we cannot change the circumstances, but we can change the consciousness. Prahlad could not change the circumstances. Pandavas could not change it, but they were completely absorbed in perfect Krishna consciousness. I think an example was given, like there is a beautiful, young, beautiful woman. An animal, let's say a tiger, would see the beautiful woman as just as a food, as a flesh. That's it. It doesn't have any talent to really analyze whether she's beautiful or talented or anything like that. And a young man might see the same subject matter, a beautiful young woman, in a lusty desire, with lusty desire. Whereas a sadhu would see the young lady as another beautiful Jivatma, part and parcel of Krishna, Pandita Samadarshina. So that is what it is. It all depends on our consciousness, whether we are going to be in an animalistic consciousness or rajasic or sattva, or I think as said in the previous verse, Shuddha Sattva, become completely perfect in Krishna consciousness. Haribol Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Would you like to read the last verse of this chapter, Prabhuji?
Are you telling me, Prabhu?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, text 29. Namastubhyam bhagavate vasudevaya vedase sarvabhuta visvasya santaya brahate namaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Lord Vasudeva, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation. You live as the super soul in everyone's heart and are smaller than the smallest. Yet you are greater than the greatest and all pervading. You appear completely silent, having nothing to do, but this is due to your all-pervading nature and your fullness in all opulences. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. How Devayani became self-realized by the grace of her great husband, Maharaja Yayâti, is described here. Describing such realization is another way of performing the bhakti process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. Bhagavad Gita 7:5-23. Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting are especially important. By hearing from her husband about the greatness of Lord Vasudeva, Devyani certainly became convinced and surrendered herself unto the lotus feet of Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate-Vasudevaya. This is knowledge. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanamanman Prapatyate. Surrender to Vasudeva is the result of hearing about him for many, many births. As soon as one surrenders unto Vasudeva, one is liberated immediately. Because of her association with her great husband, Maharaja Yayâti, Devyani became purified, adopted the means of Bhakti Yoga, and thus became liberated. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 9th Canto, 19th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled King Yayâti Achieves Liberation. So very nice way to end this chapter, where Prabhupada is giving a very nice purport, how we can associate, render devotional service to the Supreme Lord Krishna in many ways, especially this 9 process of bhakti, and out of that, if we just do even the first 3, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that's it. And I personally am very obliged to Tampa Satsang and Shubha Vilas Prabhuji and all the other devotees for facilitating this kind of an opportunity where we are able to hear every day. I did not participate, and now better late than never. At least I've started listening to Bhagavatam every day. But it's a wonderful opportunity. This we should not consider as a mundane activity. Hearing, how Parikshit Maharaj, just by hearing, is preparing himself to be an eternal servant of Krishna. We might be thinking, oh, Parikshit Maharaj, he has got 7 days. Why is he wasting time listening to so many things about that? No, he is preparing himself for his eternal position. And as Srila Rupa Goswami has said, our job is to be an eternal servant, performing eternal devotional service at the lotus feet of Krishna and for all his devotees. So, there are so many, Krishna himself is giving 9 opportunities, different way. And Shravanam is there, Kirtanam is there, Vishnu Smaranam is there. And the process that Srila Prabhupada has established, so many temples, so many programs, so many activities, books, unlimited opportunity to engage in devotional service. So those are my thoughts, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your kind association. We are very, very grateful that you are now regularly giving your association to us. That really helps to read Bhagavatam together in association of wonderful devotees like you and all the devotees on the call. Thank you. All these processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, are definitely wonderful, but they become even more sweet when performed in association of devotees, and easier and straightforward also. Like if we do something alone, whether it is chanting, whether it is reading, hearing, it's hard. It's not easy to read every day just by oneself for a conditioned soul like myself. But when we have a commitment, okay, the devotees are waiting, everyone is waiting, so unless it's really an emergency, I must not miss it. So then Krishna helps. And it's only by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord only that we have been practically reading every day for over 6 years now. So started with just small 2-3 devotees. The intent was to read together rest everything followed. Cities changed, devotees, moved to different cities. And new people also start to come. Unimaginable ways Krishna sends new people, which we didn't ever think of in the wildest of our dreams. So thank you so much. There are some comments here in the Bhagavad-Subodhini from the commentaries of the Acharyas that Amrish Maharaj and Maharaj Yayâti were one from the Sun dynasty, Amrish Maharaj from the Sun dynasty, and Yayâti was from the Moon dynasty, the Sun and the Moon. And they were present at the same time. So they were the ninth in their kind of generations, the ninth generations. Eighth in the falling line, like Brahma, Marichi, Kashyapa, Vivaswan, Shadadev, Nabhaga, and Amrish. So it's mentioned that when the Sun dynasty rules Bhumandala, then the Moon dynasty rules the part of Bhumandala, namely the Bharatvarsha. When the Moon dynasty rules Bharatvarsha, or the Moon dynasty rules Bhumandala, so Bhumandala is basically much bigger. Bharatvarsha is tiny portion of that, just to understand from a relative scale. So the point here is that because of the influence and the association, and as we discussed I think the other day also, Maharaj Yayâti heard about the greatness of Amrish Maharaj and how he engaged every limb in Krishna's service, every part, every thought, word and deed in Krishna's service. Then Yayâti got absorbed. And seeing Yayati's absorption, his wife Devyani also got absorbed. And it is a very important duty of the husband, because Bhagavatam says that one should not become a father, a mother, a husband, a guru, a demigod, etc., until one can take the responsibility of the dependents to take them back home, back to Godhead, so they don't have to take birth again. Na mochayetya samupeta mrityum. So Yayati did his duty, real duty. Giving food, clothing, shelter is not the real duty. Yes, that's the basic level, physical needs. After that, emotional needs. But most important is that this need for the soul is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. The dog also gets the food for the children and the family. The pig also gets, the birds also get, the fish also gets. But they can't give Krishna consciousness to their dependents. It's only human beings, and they must. Otherwise, one must not take the responsibility. So, yes, Nandini Mataji, you want to say something? This is the end of chapter 19. You have your hand up, Mataji. You wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. Can you please elaborate on the first 3 lines of the purport, which says that how Devayani became self-realized is described here. Is this 29th text supposed to be how Devayani got, is what it is right talking about? This is how she got self-realized. And or is that the verse spoken? I don't think it's a verse spoken by Devayani, but I'm trying to grasp what this means.
Basically,
and then
hearing process, the process of hearing is glorified, because she heard
right
from a great soul, and then Krishna mana samaveshya, thinking about Krishna with complete absorption. And that goes for all the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So
no. One second. If you just go to text 29, verse 29, Namastubhyam Bhagavate, who spoke this? This text is spoken by who? Is it spoken by Devayani? Is it spoken by Sutadev Goswami, because usually it should say Devayani Vacha or Sukadev Vacha, or like, you understand my question?
I think I'm understanding. So this is basically Shukdev Goswami or Sutta Goswami telling this. It's not Devyani speaking, but they are speaking what Devyani is undergoing or what she is going through.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Because text number 1 practically starts from Sri Shuka Uvacha. The whole chapter, this whole story is within a story. The story, like first, I can just summarize the chapter also, but the whole thing is spoken by Shukdev Goswami, but he is telling the conversation between the two, and then later the heart of Devyani, that how she was completely absorbed and how she was remembering Krishna through the process of different hearing, chanting, and different other processes. So this chapter is entitled King Yayâti Achieves Liberation. In the last chapter, we read about how King Yayâti was ruling. He took he asked for youth from his son Puru, and the son gave. And then he ruled for thousands of years. And he was doing yajna, he was remembering the Supreme Lord, but not in an unalloyed way. He was busy in sense gratification also. But after thousands of years, time had passed, energy had passed, he realized that this is not giving me real happiness. I'm not really satisfied. And then he developed detachment, that he was disgusted with sexual enjoyment and its bad effects. So basically, he renounced all that and shared a story. And we discussed the importance of story. And we also discussed that he got inspired from Maharaj Amrisha. When hearing about his Maharaj Amrisha's glory, Yayâti realized that what I'm doing, I'm just wasting my life in tuchya sukha. So he became self-realized. Then he shared this story, an allegorical story, because sometimes if maybe the husband would have said, hey wife, you are very lusty, you are just busy in sense gratification, you don't know the purpose of life, perhaps the intent may be to help her, but the content may not be the best words. It may not have a good effect. And sometimes we see that the intent may be right, but if the content is not right, if the way it is delivered is not correct, it will not have a good impact. So not just good intentions, but how to properly tell, especially to the near and dear ones, so that the right impact can happen. Because ultimately, what's the use of speaking otherwise if there is no good impact? So he shared in the form of a story of a he goat and a she goat. So there were these goats, and then the he goat found the she goat in a well, and the he goat then married the she goat, and they had other he goat was very strong, so other goats came along. Then one time the she goat could not tolerate that the he goat had affairs with the other she goat, namely Sarmishta. Then she goat went to her caretaker, referred to as Shukracharya, and then he cut off his powers for reproduction, and then finally, through his mystic powers, he joined, basically asking Puru to give back his youth, but ultimately he was not satisfied. So realization that he got enjoyed for many years, but not satisfied. So that's basically the story which we already covered in the last chapter in this form of he goat, she goat. So, and then later he said, I'm exactly like that he goat. It's not he goat, she goat, it is just me. So Maya, Tuchya Sukha, a lusty person can never be satisfied, not by old age, not by putting butter in the fire. It's insatiable. And on the contrary, the person who is non-envious and equipoised gives all satisfaction to others. He is satisfied because when we discuss the example of Prahlad Maharaj also, so how he was very satisfied and always happy in all directions. Sarva Sukhanya Dishaha. Desires don't die with old age. These are all Maharaj Yayâti's realizations. How to be happy, how lust will never be satisfied, how desires won't die with age, how even a learned person, Vidvamsam api karshati, what to speak of other opposite sex. Even with one's mother, sister, or daughter, one should not be too close, not sit on the same seat, etc. And we discussed the multiple stories also in this regard. But now he is self-realized. He has understood the ill effects of lust. Lust does not just mean desire for opposite sex. It also includes money, wealth, fame, multiple things, whatever takes us away from Krishna. After thousands of years, not satisfied, and now he did a firm resolve. Recently, we shared the drama of Avanti Brahman. So Avanti Brahman was same thing. Many years he spent greed, not sharing one penny with anyone. Even is with his own wife and children, not to speak of giving to others in charity. And then finally, he lost everything. He also became self-realized by the power of association of devotees. And then later, he also said the same verse, that now let me engage myself fully in the service of the Supreme Lord. The same thing, I shall now meditate upon the Supreme Lord and give up all my material desires. Text 19. Be free from all the dualities, nirdvanda, nirahankara, from the false ego. And now I shall wander in the forest. So this is the real truth of life. That the things, the so-called things of this world, which we take very seriously, basically will just fade away. Today we discuss the example of the tourist in a hotel or in a train. Sometimes we're flying, let's say, from India to US. We may meet some person, we may exchange some words, but practically never to meet again. So same is with this so-called family. It is a little longer flight, which lasts few decades, perhaps, sometimes few years. Some relationship lasts few days, some few weeks, some few years, decades. And that's it. Never to, like two particles of straw on the wave of ocean. It comes and it brings the two particles together. But the next wave comes, those two particles never to meet again, as Prahlad Maharaj also says this. So through Yayâti and then Devyani, they also attain the Supreme Lord, Lord's abode. Yayâti now has developed full determination. He gives his youth back to Puru and divides the kingdom in different parts, makes Puru the main ruler. We discussed the example that Ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya maiteteshu chapyaham, because Puru was specially dear. All were dear, but Puru was specially dear. So Puru ruled and the different parts, and finally Yayâti became free from all the contamination and became the associate of the Supreme Lord and Swarupa Siddhi, freedom from all the three modes. And finally Devyani's journey is shared. Devyani was hearing all this, was seeing not just hearing, seeing that Yayâti has completely transformed. The preaching is by example. So saying big things is not very difficult, right? It doesn't take, even a tape recorder can say. But practical examples, she saw the practical example, and by the association of her great husband, namely Yayâti, Devyani's life also got transformed. She also completely focused her mind on the Supreme Lord, offered wonderful prayers, completely absorbed, and then attained the topmost destination as well. So this is a wonderful story of Yayâti. Any other comments before we wrap up? Any thoughts, comments, additions? Please. Realizations. Anyone wants to say what you liked from these 2-3 chapters about Yayâti and Devyani, Shukracharya? No one? Okay. Anyone that you want to say something? I have your hand raised. I'm not sure as well. Gandhi Prabhu also joined.
Actually, Prabir Prabhu, Sridhama Prabhu, Raghu Prabhu, Sudhir Prabhu, please share your realizations. We are really eager to hear. Lakshay Prabhu, it'll be nice to hear from others. Bipul Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. My realization is that obviously, as we are seeing time and again, that the material sense gratification does not work. With time, resource, everything, it's not working. If it doesn't work for Yayâti, if it doesn't work for Pururuva, if it didn't work for even a demon like with all the power, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kansa, it does not work for. They were all very powerful, kings. It didn't work for them. What will work is the path of Ambarish Maharaj. We can be both successful in what we are doing and do everything for Krishna. Like Prabhuji was saying, Krishna's message is to become his devotee and be engaged in devotional services. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamye vaisase satyam te pratijane priyosime. Here Krishna is giving a promise, and we should really honor that promise. Take it very, very seriously. There cannot be a better promise than what is coming from Krishna. Haribol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes, anyone else also wants to share some thoughts, reflections, comments?
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So, actually, I was thinking the same thought what the Siddhanta Prabhuji told, reiterating the same thing. That throughout the Bhagavatam, actually teaching us that we don't need to burn our hand to understand how fire causes pain. So, this Bhagavatam actually reflects us that we don't have to go through the same pain, but learning from these great personalities how to come out of this entrapment in the name of work, in the name of family, society. Yeah, we have to stay in the family society as you are born here, boat. The boat stays on the water, on the top of the water is safe, but if water comes on the boat, then it will sink. So we can stay in the family like that, but if family takes over us, then we are drowned. So Bhagavatam, every day reading Bhagavatam, it keeps us reminding that our main job is chanting, hearing, and surrendering to Lord Krishna. And Jayati life is another great example of that. Back to Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your association and sharing wonderful realizations. Anyone else wants to share this last 1 or 2 points?
I think I'll say something. Sukracharya, it's interesting that he protected, he was on the side of his own daughter, Devyani, in spite of, all the problems she had. She was with Sarmishta and so on. But so she went through we saw the whole narration. At the end, the realization came about only because King Yayâti related the he-goat and she-goat story, and then she realized what happened. So in the end, the whole thing was set right. But in the beginning, Sukracharya, because he's so attached to his own kin, he wanted to, at any cost, he was going to do whatever she wanted. That's my realization.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. That's an excellent point. We see that in the story of Dhritarashtra and as well, that he himself could not deliver his sons because he was so attached to his sons, even till the last time, until he lost all of them, until he got the message from Vidura. So we see this again and again, the great soul's intervention to open our eyes and spiritualize our lives. So thank you for sharing that point. Okay, any last comment? Anyone? Okay, so we will pause here and continue on either Sunday or Monday, depends on what topic is raised. So Nityaṁ Prabhu will speak on Sunday, so please don't miss the weekend classes. Of course, tomorrow we have the Bhagavad Gita at 9. If you know about the programs in the later afternoon and evening, Saturday and then Sunday. So we'll be telecasting all those on the Zoom. As Chris, Prabhu, and Rukmini Mataji will be there. So if you can attend in person, great. If not, then you can join the Zoom, the same link. Okay. Radha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Puran ki jai, Śrī Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Gauravata ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyaeva kripanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you so much, Hari Paul.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you so much.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.